Welcome back. I'm Bree Mesquit, in case you didn't know who I am, and I am going to be performing today for you guys a brow wax and an upper lip wax. So I'm going to show you some of the tricks that I personally use to make them super effective, especially with upper lip. I've seen a lot of people struggling with that. We'll go over mapping as well, shaping, and then actually perform the demo as well. So I already pre-set up my SMA here. I have my brow waxing sticks, scissors to trim, tweezers for cleanups, a spoolie, some cotton rounds. I like to start off the service by prepping with pre-wax cleanser, and then usually that is it, but we will go ahead and examine her skin. So what I do is I pre-cleanse, making sure we're cleansing where we are actually waxing, not necessarily just directly over the hairs. We're wanting to cleanse the skin. All right, so that's brows. Then we'll do lip as well. Making sure we're getting those corners. That's where hair tends to hide, and then clients can be super annoyed. They get in their car, they flip down that mirror, and they're like, this bee missed way too much hair, and I'm pissed. Just kidding. But actually it does happen. So we want to make sure we are super efficient getting all those little hairs. All right, so I pre-cleanse, and then I look at the skin and I ask myself, does it look oily or dehydrated? If the answer is no, then we're just going to leave it at cleanser. If we're looking and she still looks a little bit oily after pre-cleansing, then we may want to add a little bit of powder. If she looks dehydrated after cleansing, then we may want to add some oil. Her skin just looks pretty normal. So usually it's going to be like your younger clients that may still look a little bit oily, and then you want to use some powder. Or maybe your more mature clients are a little bit extra dehydrated and need some oil prep, but we're just keeping it at cleanser. With brow waxing too, it's important the positioning of both your trash can, your treatment table, your wax pot. I like everything to be as close as possible because you're not putting much wax on your stick. So getting the wax from your pot to your client, the wax is going to start setting on your stick. So I've seen a lot of newer estheticians struggling with the wax just rolling and not really adhering to the skin. So making sure everything's really close. Normally my treatment table wouldn't be set up like this. I have it coming off the wall and running like perpendicular to my setup over here. But for brows, I want her nice and close here. Okay, so that's just a little side note. All right, the order of operations, it's going to be trim, wax, tweeze. So first we're going to trim. So you're going to want your spoolie and your scissors. So I'm going to first just brush straight up. And I do not hold the hairs up. I brush them up and then let them naturally just either stay or they might fall down, and then you don't really need to trim much. So she doesn't have much to trim. But the reason I don't hold the hairs up to trim is because look at how much more I would end up taking off. And then what happens is when you brush it back over, it can make them look really a lot thinner and look sparse. And we want nice, full, groomed brows. So just a little bit can go a long way. Also, you can always trim more, but you obviously cannot put it back. So I just get the little ends here. Okay, and then I like to brush straight down. And same thing, we're not holding the hairs. On the tail, I just take very minimal amount off because the tails tend to start to thin out, and length can give the appearance of more density. So we don't want to take too much off, especially in those areas where it's starting to be a little bit sparser. All right, brush straight down, just trim just a little bit here. Now this is the area you want to be super careful. I've seen so many do this, trim too much, and then when you brush it back, all of a sudden there's like this gap here or a little hole. So we want to make sure we're not trimming too much. All right, so trim, now we wax. Okay, so we're going to be using pointer tool method. If you guys are not familiar with pointer tool method, I break it down completely in my free 6-week course. So you guys can go check that out. It's linked in the bio or in the description. Completely free. I go over everything from head to toe. And you also will get a certificate of completion at the end of the course as well. All right, so pointer tool method, I'm starting with the start of the brow here. Immediate pressure. I don't know if the camera can pick up too, but there is tons of little vellus hair in there, and you can see all the roots. So you want to check for that, make sure that you're having effective strips. And the way to have those effective strips is we are moving quickly from pot to client. You can even turn your wax pot up a little bit warmer than you normally would if you're struggling with it adhering properly. So I'm moving quickly, lots of pressure. I'm building that strip up for removal purposes, but that first pass is nice and thin, meaning I'm using lots of pressure, really wrapping the base of the hair. And then we're gonna remove this strip while it's still tacky. So that's the key to removing those vellus hairs. Get a little lift here. Just showing off the strip. All right, I just realized I did not show you guys mapping, so let me show you that real quick. So let's go over the structure of the brow. So we have 3 points to a brow and 2 areas. So the 3 points are the start, the arch, and the end. Okay, so the start we want from the crease of the nostril straight up. Okay, the arch is going to be now from the outer corner of the nostril through the pupil, which is just dead center of the lid. You do not need to ask them to open their eyes. Dead center of the lid. That's going to be about where the highest point of the arch is, or within range. So I like to flip my stick, and if it's within the range of the stick, that's great. So usually it's hard to move an arch, so I would follow with where their natural arch is. The only way to move an arch is going to require you to thin out the brow. And 90s thin brows are out. I know they try to make a comeback on TikTok, but I don't know if we're fully committed to that yet. We're keeping them nice and full for now. All right, outer corner of nostril through the outer corner of the eye. That's where the end or the tail should end, or the end. No, that's the end, sorry. Start, arch, end, okay? But we have 2 areas next to which is body and tail. So the body is gonna be 2 parallel lines from the start to the arch, and then the tail is gonna be from the arch to the end, just kind of coming to a gradual point there, okay? So that's the structure of a brow. Start, arch, end, body, tail. Hey guys, quick interruption to the show to bring you an offer you won't be able to resist. If you have not yet tried Rebel Wax, then go ahead and visit our site, lashandwaxoc.com, and use code TRYREBEL, all one word, code TRYREBEL, to claim 2 free sample size bags. So now we're gonna do the top part of her brow. I like to use my spoolie, brush straight down so I can just see everything nicely, nothing's in my way. I'm not gonna accidentally be grabbing any hairs that I'm not wanting to remove. Now when we get the wax on our stick, we're gonna wanna get it a little bit higher up on our stick because we're creating a longer strip than we did on that middle one. You're always gonna have that little stringer that wants to stick around, so I just kind of dip back into the pot. Left hand, I'm gonna hold her hair back. I'm starting with it straight up like a pen. Now you do not need to get this close when you're first starting out until you're really confident. And you can do a little bit more shaping with your tweezers when you're first starting out. Notice I'm starting before the start of the brow and I'm moving past the tail. Don't worry about those little stringers. I know it looks scary, but they're dry. They're not adhering to any hairs. I used really great pressure. I built up that strip because for removal purposes, because I know this is very vellus hair. Maybe if I move in front of the light, does that help it to pick it up? But you can see all those teeny tiny little hairs that I removed because I removed this strip when it was still very tacky. But if you try to remove this strip when it's really tacky still, but it's too thin, so if I didn't do multiple passes, you're gonna have a hard time getting that up. But super effective strip. You'll notice I was at the head of the treatment table for that one. Now for her, and I'm right-handed, so keep that in mind. So when I'm working on her right brow, I'm at the head of the treatment table. Now for her left brow, I'm actually gonna come to her right shoulder and be pushing the strip away from me. So make sure that you guys are practicing both pushing and pulling and even going off to the side when you guys are practicing at home. Another thing to keep in mind is you want to be constantly stirring your wax pot. The wax in the middle is going to start to harden because the heating mechanism is around the outer part of the pot here and from the bottom up. So you constantly want to be stirring so that you have that nice, warm, usable wax, especially when we're dealing with waxing vellus hair. Now that I've touched with my gloved hand, that I've touched my client, now I've touched this stick here, this will need to be disposed of at the end of this service, right? Pointer finger, we're doing pointer tool. So pointer finger's up top there. We're cleaning off the sides, making sure we have nice, clean wax on our stick there. Left hand, holding the hair back. It just acts as a buffer just in case you drip. Also holds the skin taut and just gives you a little bit better control. Notice I'm not moving super fast. Nice, slow motion. Now these ones are just to thicken up that strip in order to remove it easily. All right, break off that string at the end. I flip my stick, come to the end, and give a little flick. We don't want to do this. So people come to the end and they do this, and it tugs on the skin. You want to come right to the edge and do a little flicky motion, and that will give you this lift like that. All right, so you hold taut from where you're going to be removing, and I like to pull in multiple little sections there. Still a quick pull, but that really helps to get all those teeny little vellus hairs. Also, okay, content, you guys. People have been reaching out to me and they're like so stressed over content. I know it can be a lot. I would personally recommend you guys focus on some long form stuff. So like how I'm doing this demo for you guys now, you can record just an entire service and then easily break those up into small little reels, and you can post those across the platform. So you can do TikTok, you could do Instagram, you could do YouTube Shorts, but that's the kind of what we've been doing lately. And it's really reduced the amount of work I feel like I'm putting in trying to create the content. Let me know if you guys want me to do any lessons on content creation or utilizing social media marketing for building your clientele, because I definitely get a lot of questions, but get specific and then I will make some additional videos for you guys explaining what it is that I do and how I utilize social media for marketing and building a clientele. All right, so same thing, pointer tool method. Now, when I hold the brow, I'm not using one finger. I don't want to change the structure. I'm pulling the entire brow up with the palm of my hand so that I'm laying this strip on her brow bone. So it gives me a nice, really solid surface so I can still apply decent pressure without the skin wanting to like fold on me. Okay, and then I'm gonna get a little lift. Again, if you guys are newer to brows, don't feel like you have to do so much shaping with the wax itself. Stay super conservative, and then you can always go back with tweezers to clean up until you gradually get more and more comfortable to get this close. All right, hold taut, remove, and follow through immediately. If you have any of those little stringers, I'll show you how to remove it, but let's first admire this beautiful strip. So you just fold the strip, make sure the part that was not touching skin, just place it on that little stringer and it will pull it right up. If you've waited too long and it's lost its tackiness, what you can also do is take a stick, dip it in the pot. I tap the back of my hand until it stops depositing wax onto my glove and then pick that right up. Okay, so don't panic. Stringers are part of it. All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and I'll be pushing the strip away from me. Pointer finger up top, we're dragging, cleaning the sides, making sure our wax is nice and warm and at a great usable temp. We want to get to her quickly, left hand, holding taut, applying along that brow bone there, start to lay it down as you come around the arch there so that you're able to use the wax that is a little further up on your stick. If you keep your wax just straight up the whole time, you're eventually going to run out of wax and it will stop depositing wax. All right, we want to remove while it's still tacky. Now, if your client squints, you want to ask them to make a surprised look, or if you're able to hold taut on your own and everything's taut, then that's fine. But you don't ever want to pull when they're like super scrunchy with their face because then you can cause some lifting. It's a beauty. Sound like Steve Irwin. It's a beauty. Is that what he used to say? We've got a beauty. His son's been in Oregon a lot. I didn't realize that the mom was from Eugene originally. What's Steve Irwin have to do with waxing, Brie? I don't know, but I just felt like talking about him. All right, now, so trim, wax, tweeze. So now we will clean up with our tweezers. So I already I pulled them out of my Barbicide and make sure to wipe them off so they're completely dry. Now these are Tweezerman slant and point tweezers combined. So I really, really like these like hybrids because point tweezers are gonna be for ingrown removals and then slant is for any missed hairs. So for cleanups, but I love this combo here and Tweezerman has been my favorite for a very long time. I'd love to hear if you guys have any favorite tweezer brands. Let me know in the comments below because it's been quite some time since I've kind of shopped around tweezers and I want to make sure I'm up to date with everything that's out there and available. Now her tail I like to keep a little bit thicker like that so that they're nice and even. And then when she goes, if she does like makeup or whatever, then she's able to have a really good guide for filling in. We don't want, because it can look like this is a little bit sparser, and it is, but if we took all that off, we're gradually going to be thinning out her tail more and more and more, and eventually it's just going to be way too thin. So make sure that you are not removing those hairs unless your client specifically asks you. Do you want to clean it up just a little bit here? So we want to make sure that tweezing is just as effective as waxing. So we're making sure we're still grabbing from the base and removing from the root. I'd never want to see you guys doing this, or you're just moving super fast. So what happens is a lot of times we can end up breaking those hairs off rather than them being pulled from the root. And if you're holding the skin taut around, you're grabbing from the base, you don't have to pull super fast and it's still comfortable for your client. Sexy, they look good. All right, now we're moving on to lip. So I already prepped. We're using pointer tool method too, but lip, I always do the initial strip actually against the hair growth. This is the only area where I will do that is upper lip. So I start at the corner and I want to start lower so that we're really grabbing all those hairs that tend to hide right here in the corner. The lip does not start here. We want to start it all the way down here. Okay, so I'm going to give my pot a good stir, make sure this is really nice, usable, or at a good usable temp. It doesn't need to be as pretty on your stick as it does with brows because we're not shaping anything. See how I'm extending the strip? And it's really going past the hairline. So we're ensuring that we're grabbing everything. I also like to bring it up to the base of the nose there so we can grab any stragglers. All right, and then I'm overlapping in the middle here. Use your left hand to hold the skin taut when you get this grip because we do not want to be lifting or tugging on the skin like this. See my glove? That's what it would be doing to the skin. We don't want to do that. Get a little grip here and I remove 1, 2, 3, making sure I'm staying nice and parallel the whole time. Oh my gosh, I love those strips. Those are my favorite. But this hair can be really, really hard to remove at first, especially when you're new. So hard wax can be just as effective on upper lip as soft wax. You just need to use the right technique. So making sure your wax is nice and warm, you're applying in the opposite direction initially, and you're using lots of pressure so that first pass is really thin, and then you come back and kind of thicken it up. That's for removal purposes. We're making sure we're grabbing those corners. Now going over the lip, totally fine as long as they're not super chapped. If they are really chapped and dry, then you could potentially crack and cause irritation or bleeding. But otherwise, if everything looks normal, then totally fine if your wax overlaps on the lip a little bit there. All right, gonna remove 1, 2, 3. So see how I'm readjusting as I pull so that I'm always staying parallel to the skin. Love it. So good. All right, so if you do need to do a cleanup strip, we're gonna now go in the opposite direction. We're not gonna use quite as much wax, and we're also gonna make sure we're not overlapping in the center here because now we have already been over that area 2 times. And the rule of thumb for face is not going over an area more than twice. You have to tailor it to your client specifically. Maybe your client can only handle 1 pass, but really you don't want to pass that you don't want to do more than 2 passes. All if possible. Some areas that I'll make an exception are like sideburns, because it's a little bit thicker skin, a little bit thicker hair, but it really depends on the client. So I remove those cleanup strips fairly slowly. It really helps to tweeze out any hidden little hairs that were left behind. A lot of times those are not super like visible with the naked eye, but once you look back at the strip, you can see there was like still a decent amount of hairs left there. I'm gonna wait until I apply this strip, and then I can use the stick to pick up any of that little residue that's left behind. So pointer tool method again. Don't spend a lot of time trying to make it look super pretty, not for lip, it's not necessary. We're making sure we're not overlapping in the middle. I really like to dig into those corners there again. I'm gonna clean up any little residue that's left behind. We're gonna get a little lift here. I like to do this so that I'm not making so many trips to the trash can and slowing myself down. So good. All right. That is it for brow and upper lip wax. We're just gonna end with some post serum. My bottle looks kind of crazy, but this is Relax and Wax No Trauma Mama. I love having this on hand for any facial waxing. Also anywhere if someone is extra sensitive. So sometimes I choose to use that for bikini, or maybe after an underarm wax, or if even anywhere else on the body where they feel a little bit of irritation, or they're just extra red and sensitive. This is a great product to use. You can use my code, I believe it's BREE10, BREE10, and you guys will get a discount on your first order. I'll make sure that's in the description below as well. So you wanna apply it where you actually wax, not just straight over the brow hair. And then anything that's left behind, I do go over the brows, because it can also act a little bit as like a brow gel and just help finish up the service. So brush up and out. You have nice, beautiful, fluffy, finished brows. So that was it. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or need help with anything else. Let me know what you guys want to see. I really want this channel to be super valuable for you guys, help you guys improve your waxing technique, gain confidence, gain new clients, and all the things for waxing business. So just let me know how I can help you guys, and I'll see you back next time.